Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Kaiju Deep Dive. I'm going to wait a few minutes to see if anybody tunes in. So, I first must genuinely, sincerely apologize for my timing mix-up because on the Kaiju Galaxy message board, I had literally put that this would be happening at, what, 6:30 or something, and then everywhere else I was like, nope, this is happening at 6. So I apologize for the confusion. So we are happening now at 6 p.m. If for some reason you can't tune in until later, well, then feel free to watch the video as it goes back. This introductory episode, introducing Kaiju Deep Dive, is intended to be roughly about 20 to 30 minutes. It's not going to be very lengthy. It's basically just to get the show on the road and to kind of give you an idea of what to expect over the next day or so with regard to content that will be produced on this channel. So, now to give you a little bit of context on what Kaiju Deep Dive is, essentially the goal behind this series of streams is to deep dive into people's different creative outlets when it comes to partaking in, I don't know, kaiju stuff, kaiju creativity. All right. So like my areas of specialty are fan fiction, poetry, and music to a certain degree. So I'm going to be talking a lot about fan fiction and poetry in a couple of different streams, but I'm also going to be talking about creating your own fan-made monsters or characters. So just that's what you'll expect and what you'll look forward to, hopefully, for this. And it's meant to be very simple, very straightforward and fun, and hopefully it stimulates some creativity. So I see that we have a few people tuning in. Arpy and Igni are here. Ellen is here. Hello, my dear friends. It's good to see you. If you could give the video a like, if you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, that would be fabulous. Go follow my other channels as well if you are interested in following my other content, because I do have the tendency of talking about Godzilla in multiple locations, so much to the dismay of probably quite a few people in my life, but I'm sure they get used to it. So one thing that really intrigued me about this series and what really kind of set the stage for it was I was at my parents' house probably a month or two ago, and I was looking through a bunch of old things. I am a pack rat. I have a lot of different, like, things that I keep. Mostly it's like documents, papers, stories I've written, poems that I've written in the past. Well, I found a treasure trove because I ended up discovering all of the Godzilla fanfics that I used to write in their written original form. And even before that, I found the Godzilla fanfics that I wrote, that I kind of like drew it in like a comic form. And I'm gonna show them here in just a moment. But the reason why I also wanted to do this series is because there are so many Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, Kamen Rider fans, like all of those different people. I've seen them express like, "Hey, I want to do something creative," or they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I see these different people writing really cool things. I see these people producing beautiful pieces of art, but they never really make the time to try it for themselves." And they don't take a chance on making it a creative outlet. And I think that it is important that one gives themselves the opportunity to do so. So if you look at the schedule, and I'm going to show you the schedule here in just a quick second. So I'm going to share the screen. Hopefully the share screen works perfectly. P.S. If there are any audio problems, please let me know, because in the last stream that I did experience some audio issues. All right, so I'm going to share the screen, Google Chrome. All right, so if we go to the Kaiju Galaxy main website, and if we go to the blog, hopefully it keeps the screen share clear for everyone. So essentially tonight, what's going to happen is we're just going to have this session and the next session, which is strictly about fan fiction writing. And that is going to be, I believe that is, oh my gosh, what time did I have that scheduled at? I think it's at 7. It's at 7 p.m. if memory serves me correctly. All right. See, on here I made the mistake. I put 6:30 p.m. as well. I'm really bad with my times, my friends. I apologize. So today we're just doing that. We're doing fan fiction writing. I'm gonna basically for this stream, I'm gonna be giving some ideas of what you can do to like begin your thought process when it comes to putting together a Godzilla fanfic or another type of fanfic. I'm going to be, for tomorrow, I'm going to be hosting a reunion for Kaiju Galaxy members. So that means that anybody who has the link on the message board, they will be able to tune in and actually participate in a conversation, all of us together about various different topics. I have some discussion questions made up. So we'll be talking about things ranging from the new Godzilla versus Kong film coming up to what we'll think will happen with the Godzilla franchise or any other franchise in the future. So, um, session 4 tomorrow is going to be talking about how to write fan poetry, which is going to be a unique one, considering that not a lot of people do it. So I'm hoping that it may be beneficial. And then, last but not least, we're going to wind up this whole shindig by doing a session on creating your own kaiju. So this will definitely be for people, especially if they want to participate in tournaments or if they want to create fan fiction kaiju, like for a fanfic that they're writing, or if they're world building, where I'm hoping that that will be beneficial for them as well. So that's what the schedule is going to look like. Okay. So hopefully that'll be fun. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody um, lined up to talk about art. I wish we did, but we do have members on Kaiju Galaxy who do professionalize in art. So if you want to talk to any of them, you're more than welcome to. Okay. So, but I just want to make sure that art is for sure not left out. It's not my area of expertise, but there are other people who do have that area of expertise. In fact, in the future, I might see if I can get an artist like Matt Frank or someone to that effect on here to maybe talk a little bit more about doing art for a living, because he literally does art for a living, and it's pretty awesome that he does that. Okay. So now, one other thing that I do want to talk about, and this is prior to me showing you my ridiculous Godzilla comics and old pieces of fan fiction just for fun, and why I think it's important to look at such things. But I want to announce, and you've probably seen this if you follow Kaiju Galaxy on Facebook or on its message board, but Kaiju Galaxy from now until August 15th is actually accepting submissions for fan fiction, fan poetry, reviews, and art. So that means if you are any one of those and you are interested in submitting your own work to us, that means you will have the potential to have your work published on our site. So the reason why we want to do this is because one, many like we have the background and expertise to facilitate such a thing, but we've come to understand that there are very few opportunities out there for kaiju fans to show off their work. Yeah, people can post their stuff in Facebook groups. Yeah, people can go onto message boards and share things on message boards. However, nothing like professionally substantial. The goal with Kaiju Galaxy is for you to submit your work and have it selected in a process and have it featured as a form of publication. Okay, so that is the goal of what we want to do for the site. It's honestly been the goal of the site since way back in 2004 when it was created, but we haven't had the ability to facilitate that the way we do now. All right. So now I'm going to spend the next probably 5 minutes or so talking to you about the guidelines of how you would submit to such a thing. All right. So I'm going to do a screen share. praising Mothra right now that screen sharing is working well tonight, because I've had streams where it has not worked to my advantage. All right. So I'm going to go back to the Kaiju Galaxy main website, and I'm going to go all the way up to the top to where it says blog. And then I'm going to click on the article that says call for writers and artists be featured on Kaiju Galaxy. All right. Hopefully everybody can see this okay. Okay. So now I try to put in some guidelines for each and every creative outlet, because I mean, there are maybe some people who don't want to write fan fiction, but say they might want to do a movie review or a review of a soundtrack or a figure review, you know, so on and so forth. So I try to touch on all of those different bases. So I'm just going to go through these one by one. For fan fiction, basically what I will expect is you will submit a single piece of fiction of any length. Make sure that it is proofread and edited prior to submission. Obviously, I'm going to be reading through it, and my staff is going to be reading through it to determine if it, you know, is strong enough to be hosted on our site. But we do expect it to be pretty clear of mistakes. Like, I'm not like, I won't be upset if there's like a spelling error or a grammatical error here and there, but essentially we'll be keeping an eye on that. All right. So if your piece has any graphic content, please provide a content warning at the top. When I say graphic content, I'm talking about like extreme violence, gore, any type of like sexual references, so on and so forth. That should be noted at the top if possible, because we will probably have readers of all ages filing in and out of our site. All right, so we want to make sure that we have that disclaimer up there so people can see it. And that way we don't get yelled at for, you know, not having something like that. Additionally, when you submit a piece of fan fiction, I'm going to want you to include a 100-word synopsis that essentially summarizes what your story is about. That way I can post that at the top of it. So before the reader decides to read it, they can look at that and be like, all right, do I want to keep going with this? So on and so forth. If you click on this, My Story, Godzilla, A Heart Ruptured here, you'll see an example of a synopsis that you can use as a template in writing your own, okay? Arizona green tea is getting me through life today. Next, fan art. So I want you, like, if you are interested in submitting fan art, I want you to submit 1 to 2 pieces of kaiju fan art that you've created. We are open to all styles, modes, and methods, and we ask that you avoid any visually graphic content like gore or sexual content, mostly because since it's a visual, a disclaimer or a content warning at the top isn't going to really help, especially when people's eyes are drawn to the visual aspect of something prior to actually reading what is present. Okay. So I'm checking the chat. Thank you for messaging me, Ellen, by the way. With the screen share up, I can't see the chat, so I have it on my phone here. Arpy, you are welcome to join us. Profanity is okay. Igni asks if profanity is acceptable. Profanity is acceptable. I do love me some good profanity. At the top, though, of your story, if you submit it, or like even if it's a fan poem, if there is a lot of profanity, you might want to just note it as a disclaimer. Okay. So I will endeavor to monitor the chat a little bit more. Now, for fan poetry, I'll have you submit at least 1 to 2 kaiju fan poems. We are open to all forms and styles, and we ask that poems be a minimum of 10 lines, but no more than 40 lines. So if, say, you are a person who loves to write haiku poetry, instead of just submitting 1 haiku, which those are only 3 lines, I might say submit a series of them. Like, at least submit enough of them where you will have at least a minimum of 10 to 12 lines. That way we have something substantive to post, to publish essentially for you. All right. Again, if your piece has any graphic content, like the last few, make sure that you provide a content warning. Okay. And then now down below is a little blurb on reviews. So reviews are a little bit of a different animal, all right, to wrangle with. Now, For reviews, essentially, you're going to submit a single film, soundtrack, or figure review during this reading period, if you choose. So we have a specific format that we like to use when generating figure reviews, especially. So reference the example that I have here written by Ellen here. All right, so reference that sample so you can see what the format is. Reviews are definitely more of a type of technical writing. All right, so it's supposed to sound professional. It's supposed to sound very straightforward, specific. It's supposed to be concise. You don't want it to be too long-winded, kind of like how I am being right now. Um, Now, when it comes to film or music reviews, we are much more open to like format on those, especially since there tends to be some more interpretive analysis that happens, especially if you're interpreting imagery in a different way in a film, or if you're interpreting music in a different way than other people may. So that means we'll be a little bit more open to that. Now, if you submit it to us and we look at it and we're like, it needs to be organized a little bit better, we'll respond to you and let you know. Let you know that. Okay. So let's see. Ellen, like you go into a lot of detail, but I still feel like your detail is distinct and specific. Okay. Let's see. Igni might do a little snippet. Yeah, like for going back to fanfics really quickly, your fanfics do not have to have a specific length requirement. You can submit one that's 300 pages. You could submit one that's 1 page. It's entirely up to you. If you do submit one that's like 300 pages and we do publish it, note it may take some time to actually get it up on the site because we have to edit it down into collapsible chapters. It like your fanfics, if it is very lengthy, it 100% must be divided into chapters or sections. All right, it cannot be one large block of um, text because that's going to make it very, very difficult for organization. And the truth is, when you look at it from a reader's perspective, readers lose interest very quickly if they don't see something that's divided up into sections. Okay. So I hope that, I mean, if you are a person that you want to submit a fanfic, but it's not organized into sections, you may have to go back in and do that before submitting to Kaiju Galaxy. Okay. So let's see here, how to submit. Now we're on to the really important part, right? So, and essentially to submit, you're going to be submitting your pieces to us to our email, kaijugalaxy@gmail.com. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that your submissions are in a Word document. All right, so a Microsoft Word document, a .doc or .x file. You will attach it to an email and send it to us. All right. The title of your email should be Kaiju Galaxy submission, and whatever the placeholder is. If it's a fanfic, you would put in fanfiction, so on and so forth. Now, in the body of your email, you'll give us a brief description of what you're choosing to submit and your first and last name. That way, it'll kind of give us a little bit of context. Now, if you are a type of person who doesn't like their name to be put on display and you want it to be anonymous, then we'll encourage you to create a username or pen name. There has to be some sort of name attached to it. We can't just say anonymous. Okay. The reason why that is because if somebody say steals your work, we can't pursue matters on that if they use the argument of like, well, this was posted by somebody anonymous, so there is no name attached to it. It's just to avoid that type of frustration. All right. Especially, it'll be really frustrating for the writer if that happens. I've had my own work stolen before, and it really, really sucks. And since like And since there aren't any formal copyright documentation attached to these things, like it's not like we can pursue legal action against somebody who does steal it. We'd have to like contact the site that it's posted on, so on and so forth. So oh, you guys are too funny. I'll have you know, Ellen, I've checked the email probably 3 times in the past couple days, so hair flip, hair flip. Um now, The deadline, Igni, is August 15th. Okay. We'll be doing reading periods periodically, but technically the reading period started July 15th and it'll go to August 15th. The reason why it's going to August 15th is I'm starting school up the end of August, so I'm going to be extremely busy and won't have a lot of time to receive new submissions. All right. I'm thinking we'll probably do at least 3 different calls for submissions throughout the year. That way, if say you don't get to do it for this one, then maybe you can submit something for one later in the year or earlier in the year. Okay. So for reading and selection time, I had to put this disclaimer in there. When you submit pieces, just note that it may take 3 to 6 weeks for Kaiju Galaxy to get back with you on the consideration of your submission. So the reason why that is because those of us who facilitate Kaiju Galaxy, we have full-time jobs, and like we're not going to be able to read something and respond to it in the span of like a day or two. It's going to take some time. So if you don't hear from us in 3 to 6 weeks, that's why we're probably extremely busy. All right. Now, if we love the submission, but it needs some edits, we'll email you back and let you know about some edits that you can make. All right. If your submission isn't what Kaiju Galaxy is looking for, we'll respectively decline it. You'll receive like a decline email, all right, that just thanks you and encourages you to submit again in the future. All right. Now, don't be upset if that happens, because if this really takes off, we might have a ton of submissions from a bunch of different Kaiju fans. There are a lot of Kaiju fans out there, and we can't possibly publish every single thing that's sent to us. We do want it to be quality work, and we do want it to be paced and staggered throughout the year. Like, we're not going to like publish 1,000,000 fanfics in the span of like a few days. That's not going to happen. That would be way too much work. And keep in mind, those of us doing this, we're doing this for free because we love it. All right. Let me check the chat box really quickly here. We do have the same hat. I love this hat. All right, so that in a nutshell is what we're expecting. So when it comes to quality standards, we're not expecting it to be professional, or we're not expecting you to be a professional artist or writer, let me rephrase that, but we do want the pieces to be clear, cohesive, and mostly free of error. All right. If you have any questions about that, you don't hesitate to ask. Right now might be a good opportunity to ask some questions too. So I'm going to be checking the chat for the next like 7 minutes or so if you have any questions. So that is the call for publication that Kaiju Galaxy is hosting. All right, so back to viewing my face as a whole. All right, now for the fun part, which is sharing some of the old pieces of comic fan fiction that I found. So when I was in like middle school, I wanted to write fanfics more than anything, and I thought that I had lost these a long, long time ago. And when I found them, I may have cried a little bit because they were very special to me. But I drew and wrote an entire series of Godzilla comic book themed things. I don't know really what to call them. Mind you, I am not a drawer or an artist, but here is an example. Godzilla versus Mothra 3. This was one of the first ones that I wrote. I basically did these because I wanted there to be some sort of visual component because I was very fascinated by that. So I did these, and then I would like periodically, like I would write captions like describing the story. I would print off like still shots from the films and paste them in just for added visual because, let's be honest, back then I even knew that I was not the best artist. I put in human characters. There were special effects. Like, look at these, like, Godzilla is destroying the city. He is effing up the city. And I've given serious consideration to doing a series on my main channel, where I do like dramatic readings of these, just for fun, just for fun. Ghidorah versus Batra. Who would have expected that pairing, right? Like, I knew back then, I was like, this would have been a super popular pairing. So I would like design the covers to make it look like movie covers. It was dramatic and it was angsty, so on and so forth. This first one, I've been very obsessed with dating things, like putting dates on things. June, year 2000. I made this 20 years ago. It's just, wow. Kind of mind-boggling, isn't it? So there was a point, though, where I stopped doing them like this. I stopped drawing them out, and I switched to simply typing them out. So I like put all of my stories in a binder, and I have them here. Some of these are like, these aren't like my really, really old typed ones, because I think those might be still buried at my parents' house. But I have like my original series, my fanfic series, and I always wanted to print them off, because just feeling the pieces of fan fiction in your hands, just, it's so significant, because when you create a large body of work, you want to be proud of it, right? And you want to be able to hold it as though it's been published, right? So in a nutshell, that's some of my like background in fan fiction. The reason why I want to show that, though, is because if you feel as though you can't write or you can't draw, don't let that get to you. The worst you can do is try and do something different with your creative outlets. I would encourage trying it, because you might discover that you may have a strength. You might discover that a lot of people may like it. And the truth is, I wouldn't have gone as far as I have gone with writing had it not been for fan fiction. For my friend Cindy, who is also a fan fiction writer on Kaiju Galaxy, for her encouraging me, because she is a phenomenal writer too. The truth is, you'll grow. Okay, so if you try it, keep on practicing with it, you'll keep growing. If you submit to Kaiju Galaxy for this call to call for publication, and it gets declined, don't be defeated by that. All right, because if you keep practicing and if you keep trying, there is a lot of potential and opportunity for you to finally get something published eventually. All right. So I hope that might be a little encouraging for you. I know for me, I struggle with drawing. I look back at these, and back then when I was in middle school and high school, I thought I was the shit when it comes to art. But now when I look at people like Matt Frank or Bob Eggleton, and I'm looking at their art, and I'm just like, I could never compare to that. But you have to tell that insecurity to kindly shut up, essentially, because if you tell yourself that and don't even try, then you're not going to grow. And that's something that I'm going to be learning through this process as well, because I need to learn to shut that voice up when it comes to drawing art, because I would love more than anything to be an artist in the Godzilla fandom. Because if you look at I spent 4 years of my life drawing stories. It clearly was an important thing to me. And I think it's important to recapture that. And I hope that it is captured for everyone else as well. All right. So, if anything, that is the goal of this series. I want you to follow with me going through this process and maybe discover some creative outlet that applies to this fandom that you may be able to partake in. to create something, to leave something behind, and to feel accomplished. All right, I hope that makes sense. Now, if you were just tuning in and you were tuning in for the 6:30 time, my bad, I apologize. Between now and my fan fiction stream here in 30 minutes, if you want to rewatch this after I finish posting it, you're more than welcome to. Anyway, thank you for joining us for this introductory episode of Kaiju Deep Dive, and stay tuned for the remaining episodes. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and hopefully see you for the fan fiction one coming here in 30 minutes. All right. Have a good night.